This is the Z Flip5, and I'm in South Korea with Samsung right now. This video isn't sponsored at all, but Samsung did pay for my trip to be here, and they provided the phone for review. All opinions are my own, and Samsung is not going to watch this video before it goes live. So it's been around 48 hours since I got the Z Flip5 in my hands, and I've been using the mess out of this phone to kind of get a feel for it, comparing it to the Z Flip 4 and then also the Motorola RAZR Plus, which is two phones that I've been using a lot recently, kind of building up to this moment so I can give a good comparison. So of course, this is not going to be a full review. Make sure you subscribe if you do want to watch the full review, but more so just 48 hours, quick impressions and early thoughts. First of all, in the hand, this phone feels much better than the Z Flip 4. This phone has a more complete feel to it. It feels so solid and just a well-constructed phone. The Flip 4 didn't feel as premium and it sort of had a flimsy feel when using it. But I will say overall, the Flip 4 wasn't built bad, as I sort of dogged the phone a little bit. I used it a lot. I would flip it open and just really use the phone just to test that hinge, and the hinge held up pretty well over this year. The Flip 4's design also changes quite a bit. There's a bigger screen which comes in handy when checking for your notifications, but also the viewfinder when taking photos is much easier. Also, the phone closes completely flat compared to the chin design that we saw with the Z Flip 4. Just being able to slip the phone into the front pocket makes me want to use a flipping phone full time. And when I'm out in the wild, especially now here in Korea, I'm seeing a lot of flipping phones compared to the folding phones. I think people enjoy that small form factor when they don't need that full screen experience. The external display looks great. It's bright and the widgets work well. Now, there isn't a full keyboard that I can just start typing away in all the apps, but if I get a notification that allows me to quick reply, I can do it here. And another way to access the keyboard is by accessing one of Samsung's apps that they allow to be ran on the cover display. So if I go to messages to send a quick text, I can do it from the screen without opening it up at all. But there's not a way to launch whatever app you want and then have the keyboard in there. Also, when you run an app on the larger screen and then you close the screen, you can continue using that app on the front screen only if that app is compatible with the front screen. There are some hand selected apps that are allowed to run. And right now, it's not many apps at all. And for those apps to run, you need to go into settings and enable that setting. Obviously, more apps can be supported day one, but at the same time, the way it is today, this is how it is. It doesn't work in all apps, and that is where my pain point pops up. Because when compared to the Motorola RAZR, there's a lot left to be desired. So I have to give the nod to the RAZR Plus, because the RAZR Plus lets you run whatever app you want on the front screen. Maybe all the apps don't run perfectly well, but majority of the apps that I wanted to run on the front screen ran okay, and it gave me just a better experience overall, allowing me to put whatever I want on the front screen. And because there's very specific apps that I want to have access to, I know this is software and it can be updated, but I have to tell you how it currently is. Obviously, I always do full reviews after 30 days, give the manufacturers a chance to push out updates and things like that. So I will update you guys in the next video if this has changed. Performance-wise, you obviously wouldn't have an issue. It has the latest Snapdragon processor inside, so it will last at least a few years performance-wise. Any app you want to perform, it'll run just like any other phone. Also, gaming is fine too. So any of those games you want to play, won't have an issue. Any of those apps you want to run won't have an issue. Like at this point in 2023, any high-end processor is going to run great, and this one's no exception. And when you open the screen up, it is pretty large. So seeing your whole X timeline, Elon, why'd you make Twitter X? And if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can close it and then you can watch this video on the mini screen too, which I don't particularly do, but there was a couple occasions where I was listening to music and then I closed the screen, and being able to access the music controls without opening the screen was just really, really nice. And also seeing the full album art was pretty cool because you have that larger screen. So that was a really cool experience that I had. So the camera hasn't changed at all compared to the 4. So the things that we saw in the 4 that I talked about is here on the 5. So it lacks some of the saturation when lighting was less than ideal, but for the most part, I think the images are just fine. Now you do get the classic Samsung punchy colors and good lighting, and sometimes the shutter can be a little bit slow, so capturing action might be a little bit difficult if you don't have the ideal light. I do find skin tones are not super accurate, and the image does fall apart in lower light pretty quickly, as you see here. It does have a solid night mode though, so if you switch over to night mode, then you get some pretty good shots, but once again, that is static images and nothing that is going to be moving around. But of course, having the larger viewfinder makes it easier to take photos, makes it easier to line up those photos using those external cameras. And those external cameras are also offset a little bit differently compared to the 4. Even though it's not the best camera around, it's still a fun camera to use, allowing you to be unique and creative, putting the phone down on different surfaces, different levels, and also taking like group selfies, you know, holding this little phone out, doing that is something that is kind of fun to use. So it is a fun camera, just not the best camera overall and not an upgrade compared to the 4. Also, we do have video mode, but once again, video mode hasn't changed much. It's passable, it works fine, but it's nothing that is like incredible, but nothing that I would use if I was like creating content for like YouTube or anything like that. The quality just still isn't there yet. Now beyond that, using this phone for the past few days has been great. Now I can't comment on battery life just yet since I'm not using my service and it's not a normal day, but it has the same battery size compared to the 4, so you should expect the same battery life. For me, the Z Flip 4 was pretty much a full day usage of a normal day. Now if it was a busy day, I definitely need to plug it in by 11 o'clock at night. It was going to die. You do have 25-watt charging speed, so in 50% in 30 minutes of charging. So if I personally owned a Z Flip 4, having that larger screen matters that much to me for me to upgrade. But if that screen doesn't matter that much, there isn't enough changes for you to upgrade and feel like you're getting a brand new phone, because many of the internals are the same, especially that camera. But of course, that was a very quick and early video of this phone after 48 hours. You want to see more phone videos? Check out this playlist.